Hello everyone and welcome to the first Attest webinar. Today we're going to be talking about the market research tools behind every PR superstar. Not that we're not presuming that you're PR superstars already. Today, my name is Alex Rees. I'm the head of digital here at Attest. I was the head of digital at Ocado in a previous life. I've been joined today by Jeremy and Sarah. Jeremy is our CEO and Sarah is our product manager. I'm going to pass over to Jeremy in a moment to introduce you to Attest. The webinar today should last about 30 minutes. If you would like to ask a question at any stage, there is time at the end, but please feel free to use the dialog box at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen to ask questions throughout. We'd like to make this as interactive as possible and make sure this is as useful time as possible for yourselves. So without further ado, I'll pass it over to Jeremy.
Yeah, so today's our first one of these, so you're either very lucky or very unlucky about to be the first people to ever go through one of these webinars. Attest is very new, we're 18 months old, we're a startup, and we're really here to help uncover your biggest pain points when it comes to getting research, getting insights, getting new data for PR. So as Alex mentioned, we'd love to get your questions. Tell us in the chat feature in the bottom right your biggest pain points, what makes you grab your head like these Power Rangers, what makes you unhappy, and if you were a Power Ranger, if you could come together to create the Mighty Morphin Power Ranger, what would that look like? Please tell us, because that's what we're trying to give you. Today, Alex is going to talk through some tools about things that we use in Attest and things that Alex uses that we recommend. But we'd love to hear what's most interesting to you as we go through. So please feel free to interrupt and tell us what's cool.
Great stuff. Thanks, Jeremy. So I'm going to touch on some tools that I use every week or in some cases every day here at Attest, and I used a lot in my time at Ocado. With you, I think these will give you a good client perspective on how these tools are used for PR. So the first tool, which you are probably aware of, is Google Trends. Google have kind of dropped slightly the be nice modus operandi, and now they're talking a lot about their role as sort of organizer of all the data on the internet. And in all fairness to them, this is done pretty well in Google Trends. Google Trends amalgamates all of the search data globally at the moment, and you can drill down by either location or subject matter. So I've written a blog post on the US election, which is on our blog, and we've used the example of Hillary Clinton's, some of the searches for her versus the searches for Donald Trump. And when you drill into location, you can see a really interesting story, which is more interesting in hindsight, but well worth a look. In a practical way, I use this a lot at Ocado to see the effect of the PR work we were doing. Was it generating more searches on our brand term, where we're getting more searches in areas where we were spending money on PR? And I could also look at our competitors and where they were getting increases in searches on their brand terms and correlate that with some of the PR work that we could see they were doing. So it's a really useful tool, very powerful, and well worth a look to both give yourselves an insight and to pass insights on to your clients. Another great tool is Mention. The purpose of Mention is to scan social media and the internet to look for anywhere where brand names or specific issues are mentioned. This is like Google Alerts, but it works. I used Google Alerts for a long time back at Ocado to get any sort of mention of Ocado. But I found Mention is a lot more intelligent as you're able to define where terms appear. So for example, with Attest being a dictionary word, it appears a lot, but I've been able to trigger Mention so it only happens where I only get an alert when Attest is mentioned in conjunction with market research. Mention enabled us to find out where we were getting coverage and where we're still getting coverage on some of the PR work we've done. So when we were mentioned as one of the top 10 startups in the UK earlier in the year by Tech City, I was able to find out about that for our PR agency, which is great. It gave me the head start. So it's well worth having a look at Mention so you don't get smart digital marketing managers chasing you for links before you've had the glory of telling them that you've got the coverage. Zapier is a fantastic tool, and I could speak about Zapier for about 3 hours, but I won't do that. Zapier combines a lot of the APIs of tools like Mention, tools like Slack, and it enables you to get notifications, set up notifications, automate reports, automate a lot of the passing of data from one source to another. So for example, with Mention, we can create a report that we send out internally every week that tells us wherever we were mentioned, what all the data from Mention straight into a Google Sheet. You can also pass that information into Slack. You can use it to set up Slacks that are triggered when journalists are looking for stories or PR requests, so you get that straight into your Slack or straight into your inbox. It's a really useful tool for making sure that you're not spending any time on repetitive tasks, and you can really make the most of your time and keep your team lean as well. Which brings me on to my very favourite tool, which is a test. A test, as it says here, enables clients and agencies to learn about their customers quickly, easily and affordably. I think the really interesting thing about a test is you can gauge public opinion and the sentiment behind the headlines. So we ran, with my Ocado hat on again, we ran some research recently looking at whether people are feeling the pinch as Brexit becomes more of a thing, and with the budget, if people are noticing any increases in prices in supermarkets. And we can compare that with the actual increases that there were in supermarkets, and I've written this up on our blog, so do check it out. And we could see that by and large, a lot of people were thinking there was more than a 5% price increase, whereas there's only, in fact, a 1% increase in price, or they stayed flat. And this differentiated between the top four, so some customers of certain supermarkets were more price sensitive than others. And we're able to actually see what people think about the headlines and what's going on, and then translate that into coverage, which I'm going to pass over to Jeremy now to speak about in a little bit more detail.
Sure. So we built a test originally to give you new ways to interact with real people, with real clients, real customers, to understand trends, to understand reactions to the news anytime you want to. We make it really easy to set up research, get insights in real time, and we make it all efficient to do and very quick, so that you can iterate your research at the same speed as you're iterating your creative and your ideas. The way we see big media agencies, retailers and PR firms like yourselves using it is to bring something totally new to a pitch, to discover something that was new, cast a wide net, test many ideas, and then take the ones that really work and show them to the client. And you can be doing that an hour or two from now, really telling the client something totally new for every meeting, for every pitch. You can also iterate ideas. We work quite closely with PR firms that throw out lots of ideas. We worked with our own PR firm recently on Foxy Bingo, and they were testing lots of ideas about who's reacting to changes in how bingo is perceived, a big rebrand happening, all sorts of things like that. And our PR firm was able to discover exactly who and what is driving the change in sentiment around bingo, and very, very interesting patterns emerged, which again made them super valuable to the client and gave some fantastic new ideas. We've got an example on the next page about some research we ran internally and actually got us a lot of coverage in the press, and a link's going to come through the chat channel right now so that you can have a play with these results. But on this page, we ran this research on sick days. Which days of the week are best to call in sick? What are the most ridiculous excuses? If you're a boss, what's most plausible to you? If you're an employee, when do you most want to be sick? Some amazing things turned up, and the Sun, Metro, Evening Standard, Mail, as far as Australia coverage, as far as Canada as well, and some of the US. Huge amounts of coverage, because this is a story that really covers everyone. And so many things came out of this. Someone was late for work because their train got a puncture, was a real excuse that we heard, all the way through to a fire in a jacuzzi. Long and short of it is that the best day to call in sick is quite early morning on a Wednesday, and that's something that we discovered very easily, and in this case only cost £2,250 to run, and got 140 million in circulation just on one of our very first pieces of research. So this is a great application of how to use a test to do something that performs really well, based on being very detailed and high quality, that gets great pickup. So now you're a PR superstar and you're a corgi crashing into the Death Star. We'd love to take any questions, open up to Q&A. There's a lot more we could talk about. And one thing that we're offering just today in this webinar is that if you try a test in the next 7 days, the next week, we will match your spend. So if you want to try something a bit like our 6 days coverage, then we'll let you try 2 for the price of 1. Whatever you want to do, we'll match it. We're so new and so keen to learn and so keen to help that this is an offer we'd love to make. So with that, any questions from anybody?
Yes, we do have some questions. Claire has asked, this one's probably for you, Jeremy. Her firm has used the same research agency for years. What makes a test better, and which features should she particularly pitch to her boss?
Yeah, so I think the answer to that is the same for both. So what makes a test better, and how to really pitch it and how to win. I think it's about speed and it's about quality. So speed, you can, with a test, if you have a pitch tomorrow or even later today, you can get some really great insight and discover something new to show to a client or a prospective client immediately. You can set up a test survey in 30 seconds to 2 minutes and you start seeing results live, which means that if you need some data right now, or you need to start discovering something right now, which is a situation we find ourselves in many times, then a test is the ideal tool to do that. So whenever you have a pitch and you need to get something quickly and discover something quickly, think of us. The other thing is it's easy to be quick, but it's hard to do that with high quality. We build our entire business around respondents, the respondents to the research, the people who are trying to engage. We make it really easy to pick those audiences and to target them directly, which gets very, very high quality data back to you, so you can be confident in it. So when you're pitching to your boss or you're trying to figure out what to use this for, think about pitches, think about speed, and think about quality.
Great, thank you. Hope that helped, Claire. Alex, Michelle has asked, if you had to pick just one of the tools that you would encourage a startup to start using for their PR today, what would it be?
Well, that is a good question. I would say the most important thing is that you know when people are talking about you on social media and throughout the web at large, so that you can join in with the conversation. And I think mention is the best way of doing that. It's you can set up a free account for just one brand term, so it's very cost effective for a startup. So I would set up mention, but then I would also, with the caveat, it's kind of using two, but make sure that you have email alerts set up with mention, and you can integrate it with Slack as well, so that you are on top of things and you can react quickly, as a lot of PR comes about by acting as quickly as possible.
Great, thank you. I think we've got time for just one more, and this probably is a good one for both of you. James has asked how long it would take to get responses from a survey to 1,000 people.
Yeah, so that usually takes less than a day, and we're getting much faster. So we know that most media channels like 1,000 person sample sizes, and they like it to come from audiences that match their readership or match the target demographic for a product or for a brand. And that's very easy to run in under 24 hours. So if your pitch is tomorrow, you could run that today and it'd be ready in time for your pitch.
Yeah, I'd go along with that. I'd be pretty confident about getting that back in 24 hours.
The one thing we haven't mentioned is that we talked about being iterative, but if you did this with 1,000 people and it tells you something interesting and you discovered something new, with a test you can follow up immediately. We call this re-engage, and find out more about the bits that are particularly interesting. So there's an outlier group, a surprise, something that really makes the story. You can go back and discover more about those things. So if that's interesting to learn about more, there's some more content on our blog about that, about re-engage, and also delighted to chat anytime about that.
Great stuff. Are there any more questions at all?
No, I don't think so. I think that's all we've got for today.
Great, then we'll give you back 15 minutes of your time, so thank you very much for joining, we really appreciate it. And please do let us know any questions. Our contact details are there at the bottom of the page they're on right now. Here to help anytime you need.
Yeah, let me know if any of the tools were interesting to you, especially Zapier, and drop me an email if you have any further questions on those. Great. Thanks very much, guys.